All right. Hey everyone, I'm David Room, and tonight we're going to be working more on the space combat game. Um, we're going to implement something that I've been wanting to implement for a long time. One of the last pieces that's sort of required to make this into an actual game, which is scripted events and triggers and different things that happen during the missions. So basically, each mission will have some kind of some kind of functionality that's specific to that mission, where various scripted events can be triggered by different things that happen. And specifically, one of the first things that I want to work on with that is um, is dialogue. So a few months ago, I built a system that allows there to be these animated wingmate portraits. This is something that you see in pretty much all space combat games, and it kind of harkens back, I think, to movies like Star Wars, where you have this kind of chatter happening during action sequence, and you see cockpit views of of the different wingmates and stuff as they communicate with each other. And I want to revisit that system, and I want to build some triggers that will trigger dialogue. So I already have the methods to sort of have dialogue messages trigger and play and show up on the screen, along with a little wingmate animation. So I want to integrate that into triggered or timed events for a specific mission. This is going to be maybe involve a little bit more poking around than the usual things that we do here, but I hope it's interesting. And I'm seeing some interesting activity on my YouTube channel lately, where it seems like a lot more people are tuning in. And when I say a lot more, just mean a couple more. It's very early in the stages of this channel, but I just want to try sharing different kinds of things. And I'm up late doing this work most nights. This is kind of my time of the night to work on things, and might as well just share it with people and see who else is interested. So I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm also going to get some music going here, and anybody can let me know if the music is too quiet or too loud. I still need to figure out a good way that I can kind of monitor that myself, but I'm listening to some awesome royalty-free, free-to-use music from White Bat Audio. So if anyone else is watching this and needs cool music for their streams or projects, White Bat Audio is pretty great. So I'm going to get that started here. Okay, so I'm going to just close everything and we can start fresh here. So recently, along with this sort of checklist that I built for the actual game content, I started building out actual modules for the actual missions of the game. So that was a cool thing to start doing. And we can take a look here at mission 4, since that already have some different co-pilots and stuff figured out. Or not co-pilots, but wingmates. So if we look at mission 4, I think, let me just turn the... Well, I'll show it to you first with the cutscene enabled. So there can be a cutscene that plays at the beginning of the mission. Whoops. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's the cutscene. The cutscene can also have a title, so I think I have it just disabled like this, but this is what the title would look like with the title. Pretty sweet. But for the purposes of testing here, I'm going to just disable the cutscenes so that when we start, we jump right in. And I added some printouts so we can pretty easily see the ticks. So there's one tick per frame, and I have this running at 30 frames per second right now just because I don't really need it to be running faster. And just a couple things that I want to demonstrate here. So currently, when you target different craft, or certain events happen, you get a message in this message box that appears up at the top, and it shows a timestamp, and then after a certain delay, that message disappears. And when I did the animated portraits, and this is actually several months ago, I was looking back at my notes, I have functionality so that I can basically have the message show up in here, but instead of Jen, which is the name of your, it's like the name of the Betty, the bitching Betty, the ship's computer, it will show up with that Copilot's, not Copilot, I keep saying Copilot, Wingman. It will keep showing up with that Wingman's name and their animated portrait in the video player. The animated portraits were kind of a tricky thing to implement because they involved implementing something that I hadn't done at all in this project before, which was render to texture. So all of this HUD stuff is 2D, and the animated portraits, since they are actually 3D, are 3D, so they need to be rendered to a texture and then put on an object, and that's necessary just to kind of have like sub views within the scene. And also there are times where these HUD elements do become 3D. So for example, when you go into cockpit, the cockpit view, the HUD elements are actually 3D objects at that point. You can see they twist a little bit with there's like a 1 frame lag in the camera against the ship's rotation. Okay, so let's kind of get a refresher on the portrait system. So there's this wingmates and portraits dictionary. I'm gonna just try to build those first, and then we'll work on the event system, which I think the way that's going to be implemented is it's going to be a function, like a callback that gets passed into this setup combat, and then that will get periodically called by the main game loop. I've got to think about where exactly I want that to go in the game loop, but it'll go in there somewhere. And rather than having like a whole bunch of different triggers or whatever, I think it's just going to be, we'll just give it one function and then we can do whatever logic in there. And then as I come up with abstractions for triggers, then we can change things around. Okay. Okay, so here's a scenario where we did actually use this. And I think this is starting to come back to me now. So I think I had a key where, whoops. I think I had a key sorry guys. I think I had a key where you could give the wingmate a command, and then that would pop up their portrait. So I'm going to see if I can figure out what that was as well. Wingmate target F9. Okay. And okay, yeah, that was okay. Yeah, nice. So that basically assigns your target to the wingmate, and then when that happens, they acknowledge with a video message. So let's see, and I think it just goes through all of the wingmates. So this will be a good test. And I'm just going to add a flag for enabling wingmates here, because we might want to disable this for other testing. All kinds of interesting stuff going on here that I've got to import. Interesting. I'm gonna move this guy over to. Okay, it's there already. Nice. failed properly here, or to failed to run properly. So this should be, geez. Okay. Okay, now I don't think that name means anything. Yeah, and this scene is also not necessary. So if we can get rid of that today. Yeah, that was originally... Oh, yeah, that was originally the video player node path, but yeah, it's just not actually necessary to set up here. So, okay. And I'm gonna do this in a functional way here, so we'll do wingmate portraits equals dict, and we're actually gonna do several of them because we have barrel 2, 3, and 4. And I think we can use the same scenery for all of them, and it's not going to hurt anything. So scenery is just a data structure that I came up with for managing like models and lights. It's fun kind of coming up with your own data structures that represent the aspects of things that you care about rather than using built-in stuff. So otherwise, man, I can't type tonight, guys. And my eyelashes are falling apart. I'm trying to ease off the coffee late at night because I'm trying to get back into a reasonable sleep schedule, but that might not fly. Okay, so there's also the portraits, and then also the wingmates dictionary, which I think, now that I think about it, might just be a mapping of it's either the entities or a mapping of names to entities. Yeah, so it's actually just a dictionary of the ships. And I actually did something interesting here the other day, which is that I reworked how yeah, Doug Weiss. Yeah, one more work day to go. That's right. I reworked how the ships dictionary works. So the main data structure in the game that holds all of the ships that are like moving and stuff in combat, originally, just for ease of use, was had the name as the key, and I changed that to have an integer unique ID as the key. So we have to use some functions to find things by name when we want them by name, but a lot of other operations like comparing things to see if they match is more straightforward. I don't like the idea of strings being compared all the time. you know, in code that needs to be performant, and that's probably not really important. So we're going to have to use the find function. So this is going to be kms.findEnt by name k ships dict, and we'll rename this to entities at some point. Ships and entities are kind of used interchangeably here, but it's the same thing. For k in wingmate portraits.keys. So that maps things up, and so now we can do wingmates here. And I think the reason that I didn't name this one wingmate portraits is because this could potentially be portraits of enemies and stuff too. Just general set of portraits that can show up in your video player. So why don't I actually reflect that up here? I'll just call this portraits, and this and yeah, just for names, just make things extra clear. Simplify things. Okay, and portraits. Okay. So, what I would expect to happen now, we run this, I'll be able to hit F9. We should see a message from each wingmate in turn. They're all going to look identical, but we'll see the different names. And, you know, we might have something go wrong some other place here because it's been a while since I've run this code, but we'll find out. Let me just see if we're applying shaders here. Set shader. Okay, and we're setting camo. I changed up a bunch of shader stuff recently too. Okay. Does it run? Yes, it runs. So, moment of truth, we hit F9. Nope. Oops. So other F keys are working. Maybe I didn't have this. Ah, enable wingmates is false. Nice. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. So okay, so we're failing now when we actually set the target in the wingmates blackboard in their behavior tree, because just for the purposes of the cutscenes, these do not have any behavior tree. in this scenario. Let me. So I think, yeah. So a couple different ways we can handle this. We can check and see if there is a behavior tree there. If there isn't, we cannot set it. Why don't we do that? So let's just take a look here. So if, and I'm kind of lately falling more towards a early return style than nesting. So let's fix that while we're at it too. So if target is none, return. And here's actually where the animation stuff is happening. If wingmate.autopilot is none, return. And actually, this is kind of what I want, because this business of the autopilot being a list is left over from an old way I was doing autopilot. So where is autopilot getting set as a list? Autopilot old. Maybe when we create entities. Autopilot, yeah. So this should be none. And let me just make sure that this, yeah, any, whoops, pilot. So, geez, what is going on here? Okay. So autopilot is going to be optional of B-tree node. So, and actually we can't, that would end up making a circular import, so we can't do that here. So we'll just call it an optional of any and make a note that it's actually an optional of btree.node. Okay, so okay, yeah, now we're just skipping out because it's none. So maybe instead of skipping out if it's none, we have them report back and say, I can't accept a target right now, or something like that. So if wingmate.autopilot is not none, then we'll do this and set a message. Message equals this. Message, I'll call that message text. Else message text equals can't accept a new target right now. And we'll just say my We'll just leave it at that. So this is the stuff that builds the animation for showing and hiding the video player and showing the portrait. Yeah, and this animation goes in a queue, so it's not going to actually, it's not actually going to get triggered. Only one of them at a time will get triggered. Okay, let's try this now. Oh. Oh, this is another failed refactor. This is probably supposed to be base NP. Well, yeah. So this is just adding a little bit of a twisting animation to everything. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. So barrel 2, barrel 3, barrel 4. Okay, so that's working. That's awesome to see that working again. And this looks generally right. I'm seeing shadows there. So the wingmate portraits should have shadows. Yeah, I see his helmet casting a shadow. And it's in a HUD box that's about the same size as that. This message box that is popping up should be the same height as the number of lines here. But I'm not going to worry about that right at the moment. That's the easy fix later. I'm going to focus on the actual functionality. I got off target here. Oh, that's funny. And they are saying new target. Did I goof up that? Oh, I just never put message text in here. That's why. Message text. Yeah. So now they should say the message where I can't take new. Yep, can't accept the new target right now. Nice. Okay. And I think what we'll do too eventually is we'll have separate keys for, or ways to issue commands to individual wingmates, but we won't worry about that right now. Okay, so that's working. What I want to do now is get the start of the event system going. So let's go back to our mission. And what we want to do is we want to pass in some kind of function here that is going to get called So I think we're gonna call this events, and we'll define that here. And this is probably eventually I think I can kind of pare down what this takes, but this is going to be a function that doesn't return anything and is just gonna mutate stuff. So it's gonna take in a tick so we know what the current tick that we're on is. So a tick, and then it's going to take base and game, and I think probably we don't need base. So base is the Panda 3D show base, which contains a lot of the engine specific stuff. My guess is that we can probably we probably need both base and game here. So and unfortunately we can't import game, which is the we can't really import game, which is like the main game object. Okay. So what do we want to do now? We want to wire this up in setup combat, and then we want to actually call it in the main game loop. So setup combat, we're going to take events is a callable, and let's see, I'm going to add a field for that here because we're going to store it in self. So it's just going to be game.events equals events. And actually, maybe we'll call this like update events because we have a lot of other update. Usually I call update like type functions that get called every frame, like update animations, things like that. So yeah, why don't we actually call this update events? So update events. So update events. to switch from coffee to water here, I think. Okay. So now the question is, and we want to make a field for this that defaults to none. Cleaning up this import as long as I'm here. Man, I just cannot type tonight worth a darn. Okay, and yeah, so then the question is, where do we call it? I'm thinking we want to call it before we update animations, so that if an event creates a new animation, then it is right there and will be executed that frame rather than the next frame. And same with sound cues. We want to have it first. So this is more stuff I need to put into separate functions, but this is the main game loop. So let's just review this once, see what order we're doing things in. So hide things, physics acceleration, get controls, break early if paused, run autopilots, run autopilots, handle missiles and projectiles, devices, and collision avoidance, turrets, physics states, and then animations. I think that I want it actually before the autopilot stuff. Yeah, we don't want things running if paused, right? Because we don't want like the same event getting triggered over and over and over again. But we want it before autopilots because the events could potentially cause the like autopilot changes. So I cannot type tonight. Okay, run events. If game dot update events, it's not none. Game dot update events. Game dot total ticks. Base game. And the reason that, we wouldn't necessarily need to pass ticks in separately if we're passing in game. But the idea here is I want to show that, events, the ticks specifically is something that is very important to how this works, right? And that we'll just call that tick rather than ticks. It's kind of key. That's how we're going to be identifying whether an event should be triggered is based on tick number. And eventually I might try to get more specific than base and game. Like if there's sort of some kind of interface that you would construct using base and game, but then would just expose certain functionality to mission scripts, like, okay, you can only update the ships, you can only trigger certain kinds of animations and stuff. That's what I'd want to pass in. So that's why this is a little redundant. Okay. So that is running. We're doing nothing, and let's just do a simple trigger. So if tick is greater than 120, exit. So this should quit after 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. All right. So that's working. So now I want to just see if we can script our wingmates saying something at certain points. And if we can do that, I think we might call it good, because I am pretty worn out tonight and I can't type. So let's see. Jeez, I have too much going on here too. I'm gonna just close some of this out. Date events. Okay, and wingmates. Okay, so this was our wingmate functionality. I think, is this? Yeah. So this is a function that we're calling to set a wingmate target. I want to take all of this stuff for kicking off the wingmate animation and message into a separate function, so we can basically just call that directly from our event updater. So that should be pretty straightforward. We'll just have something called like wingmate video message text, and then you know, eventually this could include other stuff like what type of animation we want to show, but for now we'll just do the text. And we'll just encapsulate the functionality that adds it to the video player queue as well, because that's fine. So put a video message from a wingmate in the video player queue. And we also are going to need the name of the wingmate that we're sending it from, and I think that should be first. So that. Okay, so it's just going to be this, and I think, yeah, we're not using wingmate here for anything except the name, so that's slick. And we can just call this here wingmate video message, wingmate.name, message text, game. Actually, and we'll stick with the convention here of putting game first. I flip-flop on this sometimes, whether that master object should come first. You know, another way you could do this is you could have this be like a method of game, but I don't like method. I don't like object-oriented programming. I don't like methods. I'd rather have sort of separate functions. And see, the thing here too is you can kind of see there's very specific parts of game that we're using here, and if this was eventually refactored, you could refactor those parts into some subset of game. You could pass that into here rather than the full game object itself. That would be better. So okay, so we've got game. So now we just need to update this to name. Just get rid of these. And just I'm gonna leave a to-do here about okay, let's just test first if our old target setting functionality still works. It should. Okay, it does. So, and we'll just do this here. So seconds equals tick divided by config dot, let's see, where's ticks per cycle? Or ticks per second. Ticks per second, constants dot ticks per second. And let me see, because I want to trigger this on one specific tick, like the first tick in the second. So, and I actually want to use equalses if I can. So actually, yeah, that's what I can do. So I don't actually need to do this. So I can just say if tick equals, let's say 2 seconds in, we want to say constants dot ticks per second, and we got to import our wingmates. So we're gonna say wingmates dot wingmate video message game, and we'll just be explicit here. 2 and this is too verbose. This can just be text, because what else is it? It's a message. We don't have to be verbose. Text equals, and we'll do the classic. I have a bad feeling about this. And then a little bit later, um, 3 is going to say thanks for that. Something actually that I'm realizing is kind of missing here is that it would be nice to have the pilot's actual name here rather than like a display name, rather than the rather than their ship name, their name in the wing. So I'm not exactly sure where to put that, if that is in the wingmates dictionary or if it's somewhere else. So something to think about. Okay, let's see if this does what we want. Yep, I have a bad feeling about this. And the other one says thanks for that. Nice. If I wait a little bit longer, maybe that box will go away. I think, let me just see. What I have this. So this goes for 4 seconds. Actually, let me do constants. Stuff ticks per second times 4. We'll make this a constant, so it's this could be an argument as well. Let me just see what that. Sound cue. I need to rename this so it's not called sound cue. It's just sort of like it's like a general cue. That handles either sounds or animations. I rolled my own animation system too because I didn't like how Panda 3D is like, it has a lot of things that are time based, and for this game, part of the purpose of it is for it to be a way to generate these like very discrete sets of animations that I can put into Blender and render. So I'm not really interested in like wall time. I really want to actually know the frame number of every single event. I'd rather think about it that way. So let's see here. Oh, I know what's going on. So this message, this adds a message, and message visible ticks. Yeah, HUD messages show seconds. So that is okay. So messages show for 5 seconds. So we've got to have this be a little longer than 5 seconds for it to show. And I think Yeah, I don't think that 5 seconds starts when the video is over. I think it starts at the same time. Let's just check that by making this really short. So, and actually this canon should be a floating point number, because we might want to put fractions of a second there. So let's try making this really short. So we should see the video animation just for a second. The message should stay up for 5 seconds. And we'll have a nice clear separation between the two messages that we have from each of our wingmates. So first message, yep, that goes away after 5 seconds. Second message, thanks for that. Yeah, okay. I feel like 5 seconds is maybe a little bit long for that that main message HUD thing to show up. And so 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Yeah. 4 was. Let's split the difference and go 3.5. And just to get it out of the way, as long as I'm thinking about it, text box. Yeah, I've built a different set of functionality for UI elements that I could probably use to use this UI text area. Yeah, I would still have to recalculate the height to get it offset. Let me see here. Messages. Yeah, we'll save that for another time. Don't need to show that on stream. But let's take a look at what we have here. So I have a bad feeling about this. Oh. Yep. Nice. And let's just think about this. I am pretty confident that we want the wingmates to have actual names. I don't think I really want to put that in the entity. Oh, you know what? I could just pass that right into... I could I could have that actually just be an argument of that wingmate message function. That works just fine. So we can even have it be, oh, come on. Let's see here. Yeah, that works just fine. So here, yeah. Let's see if we can do display name. Is that what I want? Or do I want the display name to go with the wingmates in their dictionary? I want it to go with the wingmates in their dictionary so it's consistent. That is what I want. So we will have the wingmates dictionary be a tuple of the ship name and their actual names. These aren't the final names of the characters, they're kind of placeholders. And the wingmates dictionary will be a dictionary of a pair of name and entity, or entity and name. So call this AB, A. And eventually, you know, this can become a data structure, a record type that has these different things in it. Maybe even has the portrait in it, so we're not doing the lookup by name. Okay. And I'm just going to update it in here. So we know what we're working with here. Yeah, this really needs to be a you know what? Let's just do that right away. Stop beating around the bush. So we'll just call this right away. We'll call this a wingmate. So a wingmate is so is going to have a display name and an entity and I don't think any of these are frozen, but if any of them could be frozen, it would probably be this one. So let's just slap a frozen as true on here and see if this hurts anything. Okay. So now in here we have wingmate and we can import this here. Self.wingmates equals that. Wingmates, just like up here, we can import wingmate. This down here. So this will be a wingmate of display name equals B, entity equals that. And I'm just gonna flip-flop these around. I'm not. And eventually we might switch this to using the sort of key by UID rather than name, but I'm not going to worry about that now. Now here, wingmate target, we're going to call, this is going to be a wingmate now instead of an entity. So we're going to grab the entity right here just once. And then all of this is going to change to the entity. Sweet, and then this guy doesn't care about this. It's using the name to look up the portraits. We'll yeah, it doesn't care at all. So because the wait a second. Okay. Message game. Okay, so name here, it does care. So name, display name. We use display name here. display name. Whoops. Display name. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure we forgot something here. Yep. Let's see. Do I want this to... Yeah. I'll actually not pass this in here. Since we're looking up wingmates, we're looking up portraits from the game. I don't like this. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We will look up display name. So if name in yep. Oh, now I goofed up the portraits. So oh yeah. So A, B in wingmate names here. And K0. Actually, K or K underscore. Nice. Okay. Well, this is where I wanted to get to. We have working wingmate portraits, new names. The next step for me is to work more on the actual the actual the actual models for the different characters, and I'm really excited to do that because it's it means that the game is really coming to life. So with that, thanks everyone for watching. Um, Stay tuned for next episode. Probably what I'll be streaming next is the next part of the sci-fi Oregon Trail inspired game, and I think if I can, I'm gonna get Katie on to help me get some ideas and help me write some of the different random events. This is really exciting. Uh, this progress here, even though it's just simple and I don't really have the right portraits for the characters, it really feels it really feels real. Um, yeah, awesome. All right, well, thanks everyone, and I'll catch you next time.